Okay, so we're continuing and finalizing the Koopa Troopa. I've already started the paper mache process, and that process is very simple. You have to create a paper mache mix and put it in a cup, and it's about half water, half glue, and that will work just fine. In this particular case, I'm using wood glue, and in the class typically I'll have Elmer's glue, so whichever you happen to use is fine. And what you want to do is you're going to get a white sheet of paper, just copy paper. You're going to start tearing into that sheet of paper. You're going to get a simple brush and you dip it in your paper mache mix. You're going to brush it on, then you put your paper on, and then what you want to do is you want to brush that down. And be more generous than I've been here, so it's enough glue. Be generous with your paper mache mix. And you do that to the whole thing, and that's how you paper mache. If you use wood glue, it's going to dry yellow. That's okay. Alright, what I want you guys to do is I want you to draw out the pattern on the back of your turtle shell. Once you draw out the pattern, then we can start creating that pattern. Originally I had said that we may use the polymer clay, but that polymer clay isn't very good for you. I was reading the label, and it said that it may be harmful to the skin and irritate the eyes, etc. So when you use it, you should use gloves and a mask, so we're not going to use that. What we're going to do is we're going to build up the texture of the shell just using hot glue, and I'll show you how to do that in just a second. Also, I added a tail. That's very simple, with a little piece of paper folded up and then paper mache, and I drew in the side of the mouth and I drew in the eyes based on my reference. Make sure you're always looking at a reference so you get things, you know, as well done as possible. Next thing you're going to see is me adding the texture with hot glue on the back of the shell. Okay, so here I have the shell of the Koopa Troopa, and you can see I've drawn out the pattern. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my hot glue gun and I'm just going to start building up the texture in circles, trying to make sure it stays even in that shape. And fill that up as much as you need to. Don't go beyond the line, right? That's what you want to avoid. Try to make sure it stays smooth. If it doesn't stay perfectly smooth, that's fine too. I'm pretty sure turtle shells are not perfectly smooth. Try to make sure all the gaps are covered. And do all of the hexagon shapes like that. Do that off camera. I'll come back. After that, what you're going to do is you're going to paper mache it the way that I just showed you. And then all that's really left is to paint it. So the texture is done. I don't know how well you can see it here, but when you do the paper mache, it's important not to do very large pieces so it doesn't cover up these gaps. You kind of want to make very small pieces so there's still an indent here and here and here and all along these lines, and that way it really has the feel of a shell. After that, you could play a lot more with texture and things like that using the hot glue, like putting the lines in the front if you want to. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to paint it. I just wanted to get the texture of the shell in there. And once I paper mache over this, then all that's left to do is to paint it. Okay, so I changed the way that we're going to do this because instead of putting paper mache on top, I like that pattern so much that was created with the hot glue that I want to keep it. If you put paper mache on top, it's going to destroy the pattern. So it's a bit of a problem because if you want to paint over the hot glue, it tends to be a plastic and paint doesn't adhere to it too well. So what I've done is I've just put a layer of solid glue, pure glue on top, hoping that that layer dries, and it dries at least if it gives it just a thin coat over the hot glue, paint should be able to adhere much better to the glue than the hot glue, the wood glue and then the hot glue. And if that works, that will create a very nice result. So I'll have to wait until this dries to see if that works or not. And then we'll give it a shot by applying some paint, and if it works, then fabulous. When we move forward, we paint it and we finish. So the Koopa Troopa is done. It's all painted. And it turned out pretty well. The shell came out excellent. You should paint the belly a beige color. Of course, in all the crevices, try to paint black. But when you're painting, you have to remember that areas that are meant to be white, you shouldn't paint them any other color. Just paint them white, because if you paint them yellow or green, then the white is not opaque enough to cover that. So just paint them white right from the beginning. Remember to leave a little highlight in the eye. I painted that white as well. And ultimately, I'm really happy with this project. It turned out really nice. There's maybe a bit too much texture on the yellow areas, but that's something that will have to be resolved in another project. So I hope you like this one. And that's it.